My name's Loretta. Folks around my neighborhood used to call me Miss Loretta, with that kind of respect that doesn't need to be loud. I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a widow. 68 years on this earth done taught me a lot, but nothing prepared me for the way my own family would make me feel like I didn't matter. I remember the day clear as daylight. I'd made a pot of smothered chicken and cornbread, wrapped it real tight with foil. Thought I'd surprise Dana, my daughter-in-law, who'd just got promoted to manager at one of those sleek car dealerships off Boulevard. My son Marcus, God rest his soul, used to help her study for those finance exams. Bought her first car. She wouldn't have stepped foot in that dealership without him. I wanted to remind her of that. I wanted to remind myself we were still family. So I drove down there, late afternoon, just as the sun dipped behind the skyline. Atlanta's changed, but that area still got soul. Black-owned shops lined the streets, music floated through the air, and laughter spilled out of barbershops. I parked my old Dodge in a customer spot, left my church fan on the dash like I always do. Inside, the place was sparkling. Polished floors so clean I could see my reflection. Bright showroom lights, young people everywhere, sharp suits, high energy. One young woman behind the front desk gave me that once over, eyes scanning from my sensible shoes to my greying curls. She asked if I had an appointment. I smiled, tried to sound warm. No, baby, I'm Dana's mother-in-law, just dropping off lunch. Her lips tightened. One moment. She picked up the phone, whispered something. I caught her glance. That glance people give you when they've already decided where you don't belong. I sat in the waiting area across from a wall lined with plaques. All with Dana's name, awards, accolades, pictures of her shaking hands with executives. Not one photo of Marcus, not even a mention, and he used to clean cars in this very lot to help her get started. My chest tightened, but I kept my back straight. A few minutes later, Dana came out from the hallway. Hair laid, blazer fitted, heels clicking. She paused when she saw me. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Loretta, what are you doing here? I brought you lunch, I said, lifting the foil-covered dish. Thought I'd surprise you, maybe meet your team. Her smile stayed, but her voice dropped cold. That's not really appropriate. This is a professional space. We don't do family drop-ins. I blinked. I'm sorry, I just thought... Behind her, a young salesman snickered. Family drama at the office, huh? I felt heat rise in my cheeks, but I didn't move. I looked Dana in the eye, trying to find the woman Marcus fell in love with. It's just food, Dana. She glanced around, clearly flustered. I need you to leave, Loretta. Clients might get the wrong impression. This isn't your space. For a moment, everything went quiet. I felt eyes on me from every corner. I thought about my grandmother who used to say, people show you who they are, don't argue, just see it. I held the foil tray close to my chest and stood up slowly. You know, I said, respect is free, but not everybody can afford it these days. Nobody said a word. Dana motioned to a security guard, who took a hesitant step forward. I waved him off. My legs didn't shake. I walked out steady. But inside, I was shaking to the bone. Outside, I placed the food on the passenger seat, leaned on my car, and just stood there. I didn't cry. I wouldn't give them that. But my eyes burned. Just as I reached for the door handle, I heard someone call out, Miss Loretta? I turned. A tall man in a crisp white shirt and tan suspenders was making his way toward me. Older, maybe early 70s, but moved with purpose. As he got closer, his face lit up. I'll be Miss Loretta from Booker Auto back in the day. I squinted. Mr. Booker? He beamed. You bet it. I worked side by side with your husband for nearly a decade. You used to bring us lemonade in those mason jars. I nodded, stunned. What you doing out here? I hesitated. Just dropped off some lunch. He glanced toward the building. Come inside. Coffee's on me. You're family to this business. Before I could say anything, he looped his arm through mine, gentle but firm, and led me toward the door. Inside, eyes widened. Dana's jaw clenched. Mr. Booker turned to her and said loud and proud, "You didn't tell me your mother-in-law was that Loretta." And just like that, the room shifted. Not from noise, from silence. The air inside the dealership felt different when I stepped back through those glass doors. Not 5 minutes ago I'd been asked to leave. Now, Mr. Booker himself was holding that door open for me, smiling like I was somebody. It threw me off balance, not because of the attention, but because dignity ain't something you can just put on and take off like a coat. It lives in your bones. Still, I felt a flicker of pride rise up in my chest as he waved me toward the back. Folks in the room shifted, their faces a mix of curiosity and confusion. Dana's eyes darted, her polished smile cracking at the edges. One of the young salesmen tilted his head, whispering something to another who stifled a laugh. But I walked steady. The break room smelled of burnt coffee and microwave leftovers. Still, it was a soft landing after the sting from earlier. Mr. Booker pulled out a chair for me like a gentleman would, and I sat, careful not to let my hands tremble. He wasted no time reaching into memory. You know, I still remember Marcus showing up at my old garage wearing those dusty jeans and saying he had a girl smart enough to balance a ledger in her sleep. That was you, wasn't it? I chuckled low. That was me. And Marcus, he always did exaggerate. Nah, he waved his hand. He was proud, rightfully so. You ran that front desk smoother than any shop in town. Kept the men from cutting corners too. That warmed something in me I hadn't felt in years. Recognition. Not just for being Marcus's wife, but for being me, Loretta, the woman who made sure the lights stayed on, the bills got paid, and the community respected us. I see so much ambition in this younger generation, he said, stirring his coffee, but not enough reverence. They climb fast, but forget who laid the first stone. My eyes flicked toward the door where Dana lingered. Her posture was too straight, her smile too thin. She's good at what she does, I said evenly, but the words tasted like rust. Mr. Booker tilted his head. Maybe, but being good ain't just about sales. It's about how you treat people, especially your own. Dana stepped inside, all business. Just checking if you needed anything, Mr. Booker. He smiled, wide and unfazed. We're good, Dana. Loretta and I go way back. She blinked, just once, but I caught it. That blink spoke volumes. Of course, she said. We'll be wrapping up soon. Actually, he replied, sipping his coffee, I was thinking Loretta might come by now and then, help us connect with the community. Folks remember her. Dana's lips moved, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. That's generous. I stayed quiet, letting the silence stretch. She couldn't control the story now, and she knew it. When she left the room, Mr. Booker leaned in, lowering his voice. Truth be told, she used your name during her promotion pitch, said she learned resilience from watching you. I stared at him. She what? He nodded. Used your story like a stepping stool. Told the board you taught her grit. The words hit like cold water. Dana, who couldn't look me in the eye out there, who had me escorted like a stranger, had used my name like it meant something when it served her. I took a breath, then another. That pain, the betrayal, was real, but so was something else, power. She borrowed my story, I said slowly, but I'm still the author. He grinned. Now that sounds like the Loretta I remember. I stood, pushing my chair back gently. Thank you for the coffee, Mr. Booker, and the truth. When we stepped out, Dana was waiting near the front. "I'm sorry for earlier," she said in a tone too clean, too loud. Things just got hectic. I looked at her, really looked. She was scared, not of me, but of what I now knew. I gave her a nod. My mother used to say, "God don't sleep, he just takes his time." I didn't wait for her reply. Outside, the sun was slipping low, casting gold across the hood of my old car. I climbed in, sat for a moment, then checked the mirror. The woman staring back at me didn't look like someone who'd been dismissed or pitied. She looked like someone ready. By the time I got home, dusk had swallowed most of the sky. The quiet of my house pressed down heavy, the kind that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I slipped off my shoes by the door and let my purse fall on the couch. My mind kept replaying that moment with Mr. Booker. His words, Dana's face, the look in her eyes when she realized I knew. I thought I was done for the day, but something inside me kept whispering, "It's time." I went to my bedroom, turned on the lamp by the nightstand, and stared at the old oak closet. In the far corner behind a stack of winter quilts sat the little grey lockbox Marcus had left me before he died. He'd told me, "Don't open it unless you need to know the truth." For 10 years I hadn't dared. Maybe I didn't want to know what kind of truth needed locking up. But after today, I felt I had earned the right to see it. The key was still taped to the underside of my jewelry drawer. Small, rusty, wrapped in a piece of masking tape with his handwriting fading across it. I sat on the bed for a long moment, holding the key like it might burn me. Then I turned it in the lock. The hinges creaked. Inside lay pieces of a life, faded Polaroids, folded letters, a watch that no longer ticked, and a manila envelope marked in Marcus's handwriting. "Read only if they forget who you are." My throat tightened. The scent of his cologne still clung faintly to the paper, like time had been trying, but failing, to erase him. I unfolded the envelope and slid out the papers. At first they looked ordinary. Bank statements, notary seals, a few legal pages yellowed with age. But then I saw my name. Loretta Simmons, founding partner in absentia. For a second, I thought I read it wrong, but it was there, stamped, signed, and notarized. Marcus had bought ownership shares in that dealership, in my name. My hands began to tremble. He had believed in me enough to make sure I owned part of what he'd built. All these years, I'd thought I was just the widow who didn't understand business. Turns out I'd been erased from the picture on purpose. I read the accompanying letter, a short one, just a paragraph. Marcus wrote that he wanted our legacy tied to the community, that he trusted Dana and Devon to honour my part in it. But somewhere along the line, they must have found these papers and chosen silence. Not a misunderstanding, a betrayal. I leaned back in my chair, the air suddenly sharp in my lungs. Every conversation I'd brushed off as harmless came rushing back. The patronising smiles, the half answers, the way Devon used to say, "Mama, you wouldn't get it." Dana's, "We'll handle it, you just rest." They hadn't been protecting me, they'd been shutting me out. I sat there in the lamplight, turning page after page, connecting dots I didn't want to see. Marcus had trusted them, and they'd cashed that trust like a check. I could almost hear Dana's voice in that dealership meeting, using my story to prove her worth. The thought of her building her success on my silence made my jaw tighten. By the time I reached the bottom of the envelope, I wasn't crying anymore. I was thinking. I picked up my phone and called my niece, Clarissa. "Aunt Loretta," she answered, voice bright and careful. "Baby, I need you to look at some papers for me. They're old, but I think they mean something." She came by an hour later, still in her work clothes, laptop bag slung over her shoulder. I handed her the documents, and she read in silence, eyebrows lifting higher with each page. "Auntie," she said finally, "these are real. Not just real, binding. You own a piece of that business. If they hid this, that's fraud level shady." Her words didn't sound angry, they sounded certain. That certainty settled me more than comfort ever could. "I don't want no war," I said quietly. "Then don't start one," she replied. "Just make sure you're ready when they bring it to you." We made copies, scanned everything, and she promised to store the originals in her office safe. After she left, I stood by the window watching the neighborhood lights flicker on one by one. I walked through the house, running my hand over picture frames. Marcus smiling in his work apron, me beside him with my hair still black. Our kids small and gap-toothed. I touched each one gently as if the glass could talk back. At my kitchen table, I opened a small leather journal and began to write. Not a diary, a record. Dates, remarks, every lie dressed as love. I didn't plan to confront anyone yet. I wanted them comfortable. I wanted to watch. When I closed the journal, I whispered, "They tried to erase me, but baby, I'm the ink." The house fell quiet again until my phone buzzed. A group message lit up the screen, "Family dinner at Dana's next weekend." Everyone's expected. I stared at it for a long moment, the glow of the phone reflecting in my glasses. I hadn't planned on going, but now, maybe it was time they saw the woman they thought they'd buried. I pulled into Dana and Devon's cul-de-sac, just as the sky turned mauve. I sat in the car a moment, steadying my breath. This wasn't just dinner, it felt like a chessboard set with hidden moves. I smoothed my dress, grabbed my small purse, and walked to the front door, gospel murmuring in my head. The yard was too perfect. Fresh mulch, urns of hydrangeas, glowing patio lights, rented heaters dotting the back porch. A white tent arched overhead. I spotted unfamiliar cars in the drive, diplomatic plates, luxury sedans. This was more than family. It was theatre. I rang the bell. A woman I didn't immediately recognize answered, smiling thinly. "Ms. Lorraine," she said, using the name Dana had forced earlier. I forced a nod. She ushered me in like I was a distant guest. Inside, Dana moved around, introducing me to professionals, patrons, acquaintances. She presented me like a relic. "This is Loretta, my mother-in-law," she said, voice smooth. Devin was perched near the fireplace, watching but not speaking. Dana's mother hovered behind the buffet table, greeting guests with practiced warmth, nodding in my direction without meeting my gaze. The toast started. Mine wasn't included. Instead, Dana spoke of legacy, lineage, community, but left me unnamed, referring only to our elders. My place was off to the side. The buffet line curved away and someone slid me a plate without utensils. I asked politely for silverware. "Oh, I thought you weren't eating, Aunt Loretta," Dana said loud enough for nearby guests to hear, palms up in feigned apology. Heat burned my cheeks. A voice from across the table cut in. "I never knew Marcus was ever married. Dana always said he was raised by his grandmother." Laughter, soft but sure. I smiled, swallowing bitterness. Every dig her people threw was precise, rehearsed. They were erasing me one word at a time. Dessert came. Dana stood, gently tapping her glass. "I want to announce our expansion. This is for my father-in-law's vision." She hit play on a promotional video projected on a screen. It began with early images. Marcus inspecting cars, handing keys, working late nights, but only minimal glimpses of me. One photo I once took, Marcus and me on opening day, was missing. Instead, Dana, her mentor, her business coach. My place was invisible. Dana turned toward me, her expression smug. I froze, fork in hand, tasting salt. I didn't speak, but I felt every eye in the room shift toward me. My phone buzzed. "Clarissa, files backed up, draft ready if you want to go public." I didn't open the message. Instead, I rose, I thanked them, paused, looked around the room. Faces stiffened, masks slipping. Without a word, I walked out. The door behind me closed with a soft click. I leaned against the car, biting my lip. Then I recorded a voice memo. Let them think they erased me. It makes the ink all the darker when it comes back. Just as I reached for the door handle, a knock, firm. I looked up. Mr. Booker stood in the darkened driveway, his face calm, eyes steady. I woke up to the sharp buzz of my phone. Sunlight hadn't even made it through the blinds yet. Clarissa's name flashed across the screen with a short message. Auntie, check the newsfeed now. My heart skipped. I fumbled for my glasses and opened the link she sent. There it was, bold headline, big photo, my face. Dealership scandal, former manager's mother accused of embezzlement. The words hit harder than a slap. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My hands trembled. The article claimed someone inside the dealership had uncovered discrepancies dating back over a decade. They used words like misappropriation, cover-up, family ties. My name was there in black and white. Loretta Vance, accused. I sat there, robe half-tied, staring at that screen until the letters blurred. I whispered to the empty room, Lord, why do lies travel faster than truth? I called Clarissa. You saw it? She asked before I could speak. Baby, do you have proof this is fake? My voice cracked, but I forced it steady. Yes, Mom, she said. I looked into it overnight. Those numbers are forged. Someone copied the old books, changed the dates. It's sloppy but loud. I exhaled slow, rubbing my temples. Then it's a setup. She didn't answer, but the silence told me she agreed. I left her with instructions to save everything and hung up. Then I called Mr. Booker, left a message. You know me, I said quietly. You know I would never steal from what Marcus built. I needed to get out of that house before the walls started closing in. So I drove to the little cafe off Auburn Avenue, the one where the coffee always came with too much cream and kindness, but that morning, kindness had edges. As I stood in line, I heard two baristas whispering, one nudging the other toward their phone. I caught the words, "That's her." When I turned, they smiled, embarrassed but not sorry. A friend from church walked over, her face tight with concern. Loretta, is that your picture on Channel 9 site? Folks are saying. I raised my hand gently. They can say what they want, long as they spell my name right. But my voice wavered. She patted my arm, eyes full of pity I didn't need. Back home, I made tea trying to think. Then an email pinged from Dani. Subject line, to our community and staff. I almost deleted it, but something told me to read. It started corporate, polished. She denied the allegations, said the company was fully cooperating. Then at the bottom, she added, I want to acknowledge my mother-in-law, Mrs. Loretta Vance, for her early support of our dealership's vision. Support. That word stuck like a thorn. Not partner, not co-founder. Support. I reread it 3 times. The tone was sweet, but the message was clear. Dana wanted to look gracious while keeping me small. I whispered, You can't rewrite history, baby. Not while I'm still breathing. Clarissa sent another text. Scans of the forged ledgers. She circled the date stamps. Digital copies pretending to be handwritten, years out of sync. If you push this, she wrote, it could break wide open. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the papers. My pulse slowed. I thought about Marcus, about the promises we built with grease on our hands and faith in our hearts. This wasn't just about my name anymore. It was about the legacy that bore his. I picked up the phone, called the dealership, and asked if Mr. Booker was in. The receptionist said he was tied up in meetings, but I could stop by later. When afternoon came, I dressed in navy slacks, crisp blouse, simple pearls. Not to impress, to remind them who I was. At the dealership, I smiled at the front desk girl, like nothing was wrong. I'm here to drop off something for Mr. Booker, I said, calm as rain. They sent me to Osiah, the operations manager, nervous young man with eyes that always flickered toward Dana's office. I laid the envelope on his desk. These are copies of some records, I said. Thought you might want to check which version you've been keeping. He flipped through, lips parting. Where did you... I leaned forward. Doesn't matter where. What matters is truth. And truth don't stay buried forever. He swallowed hard, glanced again toward Dana's office. His hands shook slightly as he stacked the pages. Osiah, I said softly, I gave you my story and my name. I expect you to protect it, not sell it. For a long moment no one moved. The hum of the air conditioner filled the space between us. Then he stood, straightened his tie and walked to Dana's door. Without looking back, he knocked, firm, deliberate. And just like that, I knew something in him had shifted. When I woke the next morning, the echoes of dinner were still heavy in my mind. Every smile, every omission replayed in that quiet space between breath and heartbeat. Dinah's promotional video without my face, her seamless dismissal, none of it left me. Then Clarissa called. Auntie, I cross-checked the reports, she said gently. The version they gave you and the old books don't match. Timestamps are off. My eyes snapped open. That confirmation, I'd been waiting for it. I sat up, shoulders stiff, heart readying itself. If this forgery was in motion, I would pull it apart, piece by piece. I drove to the dealership in the morning light, pretending to be there for outreach planning. Inside, the reception greeted me with polite distance. I told them I had an appointment with Mr. Booker. They directed me down a hallway, past Dinah's office, past the glass door where Dana sometimes sat. At the back, I asked to see the CCTV archives. The receptionist hesitated. One of Dana's staff hovered nearby, eyes flicking between me and the hallway. I pulled out a printed legal notice from Clarissa's firm, clear, compelling. My right to view prevailed. They led me to the security room. The door swung open. Screens lined the walls, blinking. Analysts sat behind consoles. I stood in the doorframe, tension pressing in. I want to watch the footage from last week, hours when that alleged discrepancy went missing, I said, voice calm but firm. They cued video after video. Then the recording started. I watched in silence. 2 figures bent over accounting books. One was unmistakably Dana, the other a manager she trusts. They whispered, moved sheets, slid a document under a binder. The change was small but deliberate. I swallowed the betrayal that set in my throat. It wasn't accidental. It was planted. It was cleaned up footage, replacement pages. Someone planted that forgery to frame me. My pulse throbbed. I felt the full weight of deceit. I asked them to bring up the original ledgers stored in the vault. They did, side by side, my forged version and the originals. Timestamps mismatched, seals missing, watermarks reversed, signatures in different ink. I named Dana. I laid out the discrepancies. This is your doing, I said softly, and you used your name to cover it. The room stirred, faces shifted. Dana's name echoed as accusation. I didn't yell, I didn't storm. I stated terms, correct the public record, restore my name, or I'll force their hand. The moral high ground was mine, and I meant to keep it. Walking through the showroom, I felt staff watching, some dodging my glance, some holding it. I passed the offices, past the desks, past the showroom, cars shining under lights. I didn't look back. Pushing open the front door, I saw an envelope slipped under the glass. I picked it up, heart tight. My old blue handkerchief, folded the way Marcus taught me. I closed my fist around it. I understood then. That was their admission. The email hit my inbox just before noon. A meeting notice, mandatory, with every department head, including Dana, No agenda, no explanation, just a time, a room, and that airtight formality that always smells like trouble. I didn't flinch. I'd been to tougher rooms with less kindness in them. Back when I was young and hungry for change, I stood outside courthouses and marched downtown streets for the right to be seen, heard, and counted. If this was another ambush, so be it. This time, I wasn't coming empty-handed. The hallway was too quiet as I walked through it. Eyes dipped, conversations cut short. I caught fragments. She really coming? That's her? Dang. But I just straightened my back, adjusted my scarf, and pushed the door open. They were already seated, Dana in her navy blazer, lips tight. Marceline across from her, eyes unreadable. Zariah stood near the front, chin high. I moved beside her without a word. Just being there was enough. Zariah didn't wait for permission. She stepped up, unshaken. I'd like to walk everyone through what I found, she said, clicking her laptop open. Emails, contracts, payment logs, time-stamped, verified, forged documents that misrepresented Loretta's ownership stake in this dealership. Click, slide, document, click, slide, signature comparisons. The room changed, breaths caught. A few glanced toward Dana, whose jaw had stiffened like granite. Someone muttered, "That's fraud." Marceline's fingers tightened around her pen. I didn't say a word. I just looked at Zariah. This young woman with fire in her belly and calm in her voice. My daughter by bond, not blood. Standing for truth when truth costs something. Then came the second shift. My phone buzzed in my jacket. I almost ignored it. But something made me check. Voicemail. Marcus's name. I pressed play and turned the speaker up. "Hey Ma, I know you ain't big on voicemails, but I just wanted to tell you. Don't let anybody make you feel like your name ain't worth something. You built your life on honesty. And if folks can't see it, that's on them. Your name, Ma. It means something." The silence that followed was heavier than any shout. Heads dropped, eyes glistened. That voice, my son's voice, had reached into the room like a reckoning. I let it play out, let the echo fill every corner. Dana stood up abruptly. "This is family business," she snapped. "It doesn't belong in front of employees." No one agreed. She scanned the room, hoping for support. "You brought this into the workplace," she said, her voice rising. "You want to make this about legacy? You're disrupting operations. I think we all heard enough to know what's really going on," said Mr. Langford, the senior finance officer. "That voicemail, that was powerful. And the paperwork? It speaks volumes." Osiah hadn't spoken once, but now he looked at Dana with narrowed eyes, then back at me. His silence said enough. He was listening differently now. I didn't match Dana's tone. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just spoke the truth. "I'm not here to burn anything down. I'm here to remember what we built and make sure it ain't buried." With that, I nodded to Zariah and we walked out together. The lobby was still. A few staff looked up, not with pity, but something else. Respect, awareness. A janitor, an older gentleman I'd seen for years but never spoke to, leaned close as I passed. "We never knew," he whispered. I stopped. "Now you do." The air outside hit different. Not heavy, not light, just clear. I unlocked my car, slid the key in, then I heard fast footsteps behind me. Marceline, her heels clicked across the concrete as she chased me down. And for once, she was the one pleading. By the time the sun began sliding behind the Atlanta skyline, I'd already sent the meeting invite to every department head, Osiah, and Dana herself. I labeled it Final Review. No fluff, no wiggle room. Clarissa and I had been locked in my office all morning, our heads bent over folders and USB drives like surgeons prepping for high-risk surgery. I knew what this was, the last chance. Either I walked out with the truth intact, or I'd be buried under their story for good. When I arrived at the showroom conference room, staff were filtering in. Some looked down, others looked at me, not quite with pity, but with expectation. Like they knew today wouldn't be ordinary. Dana came in last. Her heels clicked louder than usual, her suit sharper, her eyes colder. She didn't sit. Instead, she planted herself at the head of the room and launched right in. "I'd like to address this circus before it goes any further," she said, lips curled. Loretta's made some very serious accusations, all based on manipulated documents and years-old resentment. She pulled out a thick envelope and held it high like it was sacred scripture. "I found this," she continued, "before any of these so-called investigations started. It's proof that Loretta signed over her interest in the dealership, voluntarily, years ago." A murmur rippled. I stayed still. "These documents," she said, laying them on the table, "show clearly that this is a personal vendetta. A way for her to regain control she willingly gave up." She looked right at me, that look she always wore when she thought she'd won, but I didn't flinch. "Are you finished?" I asked softly. She crossed her arms. I turned to the tech assistant. "Please play the footage again, the security camera feed from 3 years ago." The screen blinked on. The grainy video played. Dana and Marceline sitting in my living room, Dana sliding a paper toward me. I'm in a robe, looking tired, confused. It was the night Marcus died. Then I held up her counter-evidence. "Now, side by side," I said. The two versions played next to each other. One had timestamps. The other didn't. One had a notary seal. The other had a smudged signature and a different pen ink. "Notice the difference in Loretta's clothing," Zariah added. "Same moment? 2 different days? Impossible." I stepped forward. "This is what forgery looks like." The room held its breath. I pulled out one last recording, not a voicemail. This one was from a deposition I'd done privately. Marcus's old friend, a lawyer, confirming the legal status of my shares. Ironclad. And then I said the words that had lived in my chest for weeks. "My name is worth more than this dealership." Silence. Even Uzziah leaned forward now, eyes narrowing toward Dana. Someone from marketing whispered, "I believed her. This whole time, I believed her." Zariah stood next to me. Again. I watched Dana tear down Loretta, one quiet dig at a time. Emails forgotten. Schedules changed last minute. This wasn't an accident. Dana stuttered. This isn't the place for truth?" I cut in. Dana's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Then from the back, Mr. Langford stood. "I think we owe Mrs. Loretta more than silence." One by one, heads nodded. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. I turned toward Dana and spoke low but clear. "You have 2 choices. Publicly correct the lie, restore my name, or I take this to court." I gathered my things. "I never asked to be honored," I said at the door, facing the room. "I demand to be seen." As I stepped into the fading light outside, I didn't hear applause. I heard quiet, the kind that only follows truth finally being spoken. Behind me through the glass, Dana was still frozen, mouth slightly open, eyes wide. Her face didn't carry anger. It carried something far worse. She finally understood what it felt like to lose everything, without even a word shouted. I woke before dawn, sunlight just a pale promise through the blinds. I sat at my vanity mirror, hands folded in my lap. Time had seen me through storms I never wanted to face, and now I looked in that glass and saw someone different, someone steady, no longer hidden. I remembered Marcus's voice in my ear years ago. "Your name is worth more than money." Zariah's courage, Clarissa's faith. The moment staff looked away from fear and toward truth, I whispered a prayer, quiet, grounding, letting the silence fill me. I thought of what was lost, years I didn't fight, opportunities missed, dignity dimmed, but also what remained, my voice, my story, the legacy I refused to let die. Later, I sat at my laptop in the dealership's community portal. My hands shook as I typed the raw version. My side, the evidence, the documents, the video, the story behind the name. I framed it not as a lawsuit or vengeance, but a legacy statement for those who never had a voice. I pressed publish and held my breath. Within minutes, responses poured in, staff, clients, community leaders offering apology and admiration. Some said they never understood. Others thanked me for speaking truth. Dana's own statement posted soon after, denial of course, but her tone faded beside the clarity of mine. I felt a swell of catharsis, a soft vindication growing in the space between pain and peace. That afternoon, I walked into the dealership foyer. My nameplate, once hidden or missing, had been restored. Framed legal documents hung on the wall. Osiah cleared his throat and delivered a short speech. He acknowledged me as a founding partner, spoken of my integrity, and apologized in front of staff. The room burst into applause. Dana stood, face drained, unable to speak. I stepped to the podium. I offered thanks, but I also spoke of history, integrity, and the danger of rewriting lives. History remembers those who act with integrity, I said, letting the words settle. Tears came, not from pain but release. Afterwards, I walked aside with Zariah and Clarissa. We hugged, whispered stories, let tears come and go. I visited Marcus's grave not far from home. I knelt in grass, placed a flower beside his name, whispered, I kept your name alive. The wind stirring through leaves sounded like applause. I stood feeling years of weight lift from my chest. Those scars remained, but strength did too. I slid into my old car and drove away from the showroom, not angry, not retreating, but free. I thought of outreach work, speaking in community halls, mentoring someone who felt erased. On the rearview mirror, I spotted the blue handkerchief folded into a little bloom. I smiled quietly. My name, my story, my voice, they were mine now. I whispered, I don't need them to see me. I need to see me finally.